you know what COBUILD means?
I do. It means Collins, Birmingham University International Language Database.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's the acronym that was developed in the 1980s to describe the enormous language database that Collins and the University of Birmingham put together to allow us to analyse language. Now it's more commonly known as the corpus. Well, the founders of COBUILD really was a gentleman called John Sinclair, who was one of the world's really leading and pioneering linguists. And he really put the whole project together, and it was really his vision to develop this language database and to publish books from it. Well, what's innovative about COBUILD, of course, is that it was the first dictionary written completely using corpus evidence. And corpus evidence is very important because before we had corpus, lexicographers had to make up their own mind about language. So they might look at the word mouse, M-O-U-S-E, and they might think, right, small, little furry rodent with a long tail, and write that definition. And then they might think, oh, but hang on, there's also a computer meaning, and they might then write that as the second definition. What corpus allows a lexicographer to do is to type the word mouse into the database and then to see by frequency, which is the most frequent sense, and to really see how the word is used. So you haven't got to rely on what you as a linguist might remember, you've got hard evidence in front of you, and you don't have to rely on what you as a linguist might think is going on. You've got hard evidence to show you what's actually happening in the language.
The emphasis today on the new COBUILD is still very much on pragmatics, which is different from the others. So, you know, what you're trying to do with the language. So that's its major asset, its major selling point.
Well, Collins COBUILD was a bit different from all the other brands I know, because I first learned to know the advanced dictionary, and it was different in a way that the explanations were in a very clear language, was in a simpler way, and you got to know what it really meant, but they said it in a much simpler way for a non-native speaker. So that's why Collins was one of the first dictionaries I bought.
85% of everything that we say and write every day is made up of about 3,000 words. And until we had corpus, nobody actually knew that figure. So we would fill our dictionaries with maybe 50,000 words, 60,000 words, 100,000 words, thinking that that's the language people needed to use. But actually, when you analyse it, those 3,000 words are the most important words that students and learners need. So that really allows us to focus on what the learner needs.
I use them in the paper form and also in CDs. So CDs are more practical because you don't have to look through a book, you just click, and then you can also hear the pronunciation, you can see the meaning, you can see the collocations as well, the examples in the sentences. So these are all the advantages of using online for more or less lazy people.
I like to get students to do their own explorations into the dictionary, to find words and phrases and interesting examples using sort of collocations available in the COBUILD dictionary.
I do a lot of presenting to teacher training workshops, and sometimes if I want an example, I usually revert to COBUILD to find a corpus-based example.
Oh, so much, because from the one that I stepped in here, I was given their dictionary, and as I opened it to look at it, all the important grammatical things were there. So it helped me identify the little mistakes.
When I was a teacher, I used COBUILD dictionaries when I got really stuck and I didn't know how to explain what a word meant to my students. I found that the way it explained what a word meant was so clear and so simple that often that's all I needed. It was my source of authority that I went to when I got stuck. As a teacher, you don't know everything. Sometimes you do need to go back to a dictionary.
What does it mean to me? Actually, two things. I was a teacher originally, so I remember using them to play call my bluff games. So we'd be looking up words and getting students to use as many different new words as they could. And the other one was when I was a bookseller. It meant selling a lot of books. In the 90s, I was in an ELT bookstore and traveling around with the books. So it meant a certain sale, and the students would want them.
it's just a household name for anybody who is in language teaching, and I think the most groundbreaking program that changed language teaching and looking at language.